How's everybody doing today? Hope you're all doing fantastic. At least, relatively so. Okay. Apologies, I had the music turned up way too high. Boom. That should be fine. Alright. So, welcome everybody to the live Q&A for Warglaive Gothic. This Q&A is entirely open to the public. I will say this to any of my patrons over on Patreon. First of all, I'd like to give a huge thanks to everybody over there for the continued support over these the last couple years now that I've been working on the game. Thank you guys so much. I wouldn't have gotten anywhere near as far as I have without you guys, and I greatly appreciate the support. And if you are someone interested in backing this project, backing this tabletop game and its development, this war game, please feel free to check out the Patreon. It is linked in the description below. Additionally, if you're not someone who's big on like doing a monthly payment and support through Patreon, and you just want to drop an occasional support here or there, like through a donation, I do these streams as often as I can. So there will also be a link in the description to send a donation. It is through Streamlabs because it is like the streaming service and this like, but the money is going towards Warglaive. So yep, that's just some cleanup stuff out of there. With patrons, by the way, I do have the Patreon currently, the page open right now. So if any of you guys want to send me a DM or a question via DM, I will prioritize any patron messages I receive during this Q&A stream. And even if you send it like after the stream is over with, I will answer any of those questions as if it was live during the Q&A. So, well, through text as opposed to through the video stream. But regardless, again, this Q&A isn't limited to patrons. It's open to the public and the lovely people potentially hopping in chat. Mr. Bones, welcome to the Q&A. Yo, what up, my dude? I am doing pretty good. How are you? So, I guess I'll start the stream as we hopefully will get more people in later. I will start the stream by giving you guys a general overview and update with Warglaive at its current state. There is a video planned at the end of the month to be an actual showcase of everything I've been working on as of the month of April. But as we're in the middle of the month right now, towards the latter half of the month, I can show you guys what I've been working on and the progress that's been made. So the first things first, the comic. Be here. I'm glad you're here, my man. I love the support. I love it. So yeah, at any point in the stream, when you have a question ready for, and by the way, the questions can apply to anything to do with Warglaive. It can be a question about it can be a question about lore. It can be a question about the development process. Anything at all related to Warglaive, feel free to just shoot out. Just in chat, just for the sake of it, for formatting. I don't know. Put like Q, then like semicolon, or question semicolon, and then that way I can highlight it as a question that you guys put forward for the project. So just hit up in chat with that, and thank you again, Mr. Bones, for hopping in. So real quick, I'm going to bring up what we've got for. I'm only going to show a couple of pages of the comic so far because I want to keep it a mystery. Well, not a mystery necessarily, but I want to not spoil the narrative of the comics. So I'm only bringing up sample art or images for the comic. So let me do this. Yeah, we'll do 2 sample images here of the comic. Okay. So let me just switch views here. That way you guys get a better view. Boom. Alright, so right now, in terms of the comic, sorry about that, it's a bit cropped. So this is the first page sketch. Right now, the environment needs to be more properly sketched in and outlined for the artwork. Just so everyone knows, I am doing the artwork and the writing for the comic. That's why it's going to take a little longer than if I hired an official artist who has got a lot more practice, a lot more of a practiced hand with it. I am familiar with digital art and the processes of it. It's just, I'm definitely more of a traditional artist than when it comes to 2D art anyway. I'm more of a traditional artist than I am a digital artist. So I do know what I'm doing. It's just, it takes me longer to translate those same skills I have on, a pen and paper sketch pad in real life to the digital world. So it's just a little bit of a slower process for me. But right now, the sketch is mostly done for the characters in this first page of the comic. The actual cover page of the comic, I'm going to hire another artist to do. I have someone in mind. I will not mention who they are, just in case the person I'm thinking of does say no. But the cover art is not going to be done by me, but the actual artwork in the pages will be. So this showcases our main character by the name of Rokan. The comic is Warborn centric, with the narrative that's going on is coming from the perspective of a member of the Warborn, which is one of the 3 human-derived factions in Warglaive Gothic. And it's kind of fun to be working on the comic, I'm not gonna lie. I never thought I'd do a comic when I was younger, but to just do the sketches and to just set up the page format has been really, really cool. And just so everyone knows what the pages look like before I get my hands on it, before I get sketching on it, I should say. This is how I outline the comic pages. The first page was outlined much like this one was. Basically, all I do is I go over it like a painting style, but really quick, fast, and loose, just so I know basically where everything is going to be in the scene for what I have in my head for the visual. And of course, like all artists, I use reference images and the like. But yeah, this is what this page looked like. It looked very similar to how this one is currently outlined, although of course, a little bit more, a lot more rough with the outlining. But yeah, I just go over like a quick paint job, paint work, and I also, black and white it out. That way I can see all the contrasts in a more basic form. But I did do this this particular page in color. Most of the pages that I have done this rough painting style outline of where I want everything to be, most of those pages don't have color. It's done entirely on grayscale. So this is the only one I've done in colors so far. I haven't completely blocked out every page, just most of the pages. Certainly enough of the pages to be the first issue of the comic. And the thing is, these are going to be issues, multiple issues. They will be released on the Patreon once they are in a complete enough state, as well as updates along the development process of the comic. But yeah, this is just a basic simulated outline of the second page of the comic. So you can see 2 steps of the process of developing the comic visually. This, just the rough painting outline, very rough, and then rough sketch, and then from there I will also be I'll be putting in the basic color, I'll be filling in the basic color, then I'll do shading, shadows, lighting, all the more fancy stuff will be done, and then obviously then at that point the comic will be finished. And the final steps will be adding the text box, the sound effects, the sound effects like the bang, boom, pow. Those will be added in all last. And I'm going to have an editor actually look over everything before I even get to that point. But yeah, this is basically step 1 in creating a comic page. Very rough painting style. And then from there, sketching out what I need that I know will be in the scene. So that's where I'm at right now with the comic. I have blocked out, I guess you could say, like this, I've blocked out about the first 5 pages, which will be the first issue. Again, they're smaller scale though. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoy it, Mr. Bones. Glad you enjoy it. So that is the update for the comic, which is underway, and it is going to be slow moving, slow process. I'm not going to promise the comic is going to be done like next month even. I'm going slow and steady. I want to do it right. I want to do it correct. I want to make sure it's actually worth people checking out, and not just some quick sketches and some really rough color outlining and just throwing it on a page. I actually want it to look very, very nice. To the point where, you know, if I were to like pay to have them printed out and put on like an actual booklet for like a graphic novel or something, they would be worth the purchase. So I'm trying to make this as high quality as possible. So yeah, this is like the basic process. Boom. Yeah, I just want to show it in color one more time. But yeah, really basic paint job. Character Rokan right there. I won't say exactly what this is or what's going on. Don't want to spoil it. But again, that's the basic process. Alright. So that's an update on the comic. And again, at any point during this is a live Q&A. If you guys have any questions, any at all, even if they're questions I've answered previously, there might be a new answer to it. So, yeah. Welcome, Gabriel Ekstrom. Thank you for coming. I much appreciate you being here, my friend. So yeah, at any point, just throw out a question. Just, you know, bracket it as like question, you know, semicolon, and then put in your question, just so I can like highlight it with my eyes. Also, welcome Matthew Gordon. Welcome to you guys. So yeah, that's the update on the comic. Now update on the models. Let me pull up good old ZBrush. So right now, the two models I'm working on primarily, or two sets of models, I should say, that I'm working on primarily, are the Gretch Ghoul and Gretch Brute. It's going to be easiest for me right now since I don't have access to Maya, and I still am not super happy using Blender. Doing hard surface and like armor structures and stuff like that for, you know, for example, the Helsing units. The Helsing units for the Sovereignty, or more armored mechs like we would see for the Terran Republic. Stuff like that is going to require much more basic geometry manipulation, and it's more hard surface. So all of that is not... It's not intuitive to do that with ZBrush, because ZBrush is a sculpting software. It's a 3D sculpting software. So it doesn't play well with hard surface. Don't get me wrong, there are some talented sculptors out there with their use of ZBrush that could directly simulate a mech or a robot in ZBrush, all using sculpting techniques, and it's super impressive, but unfortunately I do not possess that ability via a sculpting software. I do need a more traditional 3D modeling software for like video games or other similar ideas. And though Blender is free, and by all means, I definitely recommend it to people. It's even gotten to the point where it has a lot of professional use. For me, it's just the software is so frustrating to use to this day. So the software I prefer to use for hard surface modeling is Autodesk Maya. Unfortunately, Autodesk Maya, being the software that it is, it's used by all the major AAA video game companies. It's used by the best of the industry for the film industry, for CGI and animation. And because it's of such high quality and high demand, it unfortunately comes with a price tag to match, and it's over $205 a month just for a single basic license to use. So right now I do have to focus on characters and creations within Warglaive that don't require as much or as minimal hard surface as possible, which pretty much leaves me with the Gretch and potentially the Vogue. The Vogue do have exoskeletons, but there's a little bit of workability with that and making that hard surface. But unfortunately, the same argument cannot be made for a purely hard surface armored character like a Helsing. Like, that requires hard surface, and a lot of it, and I just can't manipulate it the same way. Oh, that zoomed in quite a lot. Alright, hold on. My apologies. Yeah, I haven't been able to touch the models in a few days, so... But this is where I'm currently at with the big guy. Boom. Let's choose here. So this is the Gretsch Ghoul. The Gretsch Ghoul is looking pretty gnarly so far. Right now, I am trying to make a fully connected one mesh model, which basically means it's all pre-assembled. I'm not breaking them up into bits yet. And the Gretsch Ghoul I have, this is a Gretsch Brute, but the Gretsch Ghoul model I have is similar. It's one solid model as opposed to broken up into different pieces. The reason I do that is so I have a full model sample of what it is visually I'm trying to sculpt, and then I can then break it up in my mind into other pieces as I make them more malleable for people to print off, like everything separate from like the chest piece, the different arm combinations they can put on, and the different leg combinations, and I know how it's all supposed to shape together and look roughly. So, you know, having one solid, complete sculpt is a good start for me, and then I move for there. Welcome, Jacob Jones. Welcome. But, yep, this is the Gretsch Brute model so far. Obviously, like, when you're sculpting, the model will look like this. Is basic geometry before you combine the mesh, and then before... so, don't anyone be too worried about how this looks, because that will all be combined, and then I'll sculpt it, smooth it, and mesh it. The same bits that make up this for basic geometry made up this, these two arms. The head was just a sphere, and the teeth were just cylinders. All of this started out as basic geometry and polygons. And then from there, you know, you artistically shape it, mold it to look the way you want. So this is a more primal stage of what that arm will look like, but it is underway. But yeah, this is where I'm at with the Gretsch Brute model. The fully assembled one, and then later I'm going to move to breaking it up into sub-assemblies. Alright, Gabriel Ekstrom says, I believe, okay, so forgive me if I'm talking out of my ass, but isn't it a bit wide a prospect to think about currently? Shouldn't you focus on a few things for now? Comics, books, and board game, but other games? But other games. I'm a bit confused by the question. Shouldn't you focus on a few things for now? Comics, books, board game, but other games. I'm not working on another game currently. The things that are being worked on right now are the game rules, the lore, which is in two forms, the lore. That's the book I'm currently writing, not the chapter book, and the comic. Then there's the models. Those are all the things I'm working on right now. But I'm not working on another game. I don't know where that came from. I wouldn't say you missed a detail, I'd say you'd add a detail. Can I ask where or why you thought I was developing another game? My confusion is quite severe there. I have no idea what you're talking about. Nor do I at all understand where you got that from. You zoned out for the, but again, like, where did you draw that conclusion? Like, I'm asking so I can avoid making whatever mistake I made, whether it was what I said or, you know, like, what gave you that assumption so I can avoid that. Oh, okay. So it was your misunderstanding. So use the models for a game, and you thought it meant video game, not tabletop. No, it's the tabletop game. There's no other game being developed right now. Not by me, anyway. I did have someone reach out to me via email trying to ask if they could develop their own indie game based on Warglaive's concept, I told them no, because the details they gave me were kind of weird. And they didn't seem like they knew, like, the legality aspect very well. But, so, no one with my permission, certainly, is developing a video game for Warglaive. No. Currently, all that is being worked on in terms of Warglaive, and I say all that is, it's still quite a lot, but it's one comic, one chapter book novel. The lore is already written out. I'm just organizing it right now. So that's not even really its own dedicated task. I'm just organizing it. The lore is written. Like, the universe is set in stone. It's just putting it together in a neat pile. Like, my lore Bible is not done yet. I have all of the universe written out on a notebook. Like, actually 3 notebooks. But it's all scattered notes. Like one page I'll be talking about the sovereignty, the next page I'll be talking about the Warborn, the next page I'll be talking about ancient humanity, the next page I'll be talking about Rathan. It's just, it goes all over the place for like my scattered notes when I was coming up with the ideas. So I am still formulating the organized Bible, but I know everything, or most of it, by heart anyway, so it's just a matter of getting it organized properly in the Bible, which I do. I just do in between stuff. It's like, when I've like spent like 6 hours working on the comic and like I'm broadly outlining all the details, I'll put a pause on it because usually my back's aching like crazy because I lean over the drawing tablet and I'm usually in a very bad posture, and I have a terrible back to begin with. So I'll take a break from that. I'll put a pause on that and go, all right, and I'll sit back and I'll just type away organizing the lore Bible. Actually, I think I can show you part of the lore Bible as it is right now. I just gotta redact a couple things I don't want people to see. Well, I checked that out though. Let me now open the Ghoul. Well, I opened the Ghoul Bible. Boom. Alright, and this is the finished Gretsch Ghoul model, which this is like the fully assembled. This is what it'll look like, fully structured. And from here, I'm going to then make sub-assembly options for different variations of the Ghoul. So different head variants, different chest pieces, different arms. And I got to make the connection points for the sculpts, so when people do a sub-assembly, they can just simply glue them into the pre-assigned spots. Which, weirdly enough, it's easier to make, like, mechs and stuff for that stuff, because, like, them looking a little, like, roughly, like, just attached kind of fits for something mechanical, but something biological, you need that smooth transition. So, making that smooth transition for the more biological sculpts like this is going to be interesting. But, yep, this model is done. It's just a matter of making the sub-assembly variations, which will be fun. There's going to be a lot. And I mean that when I say that. I don't mean like, oh, it's going to be fun. No, I mean, it's actually going to be fun doing it. Because now that I have this sample of what, like, a fully assembled Ghoul is supposed to look like, having those broken down variations is going to be a lot more. It's going to be very fun. It's going to be interesting to come up with the different sub-assembly structures, the different chest pieces, the different legs, the different... it's going to be fun to do that. So it's easier and more fun to do something when it's derived from a complete idea and a complete visual than it is, like, that's why artists use references. But it's easier to do that than it is to, well, than it is to just kind of come up with the idea. So... anyway, that's the completed Gretsch Ghoul model. I showed you the brute. And, of course, I can show it regardless. Even though they've been done, they haven't been part of... Nah, I won't show them because it's not been part of April's workload. But the Gretsch 2 maker, both the pop-up model and the full body model are available on as STLs. They're available right on the Patreon if anyone wanted to check those out. Excuse me. Welcome, what is hate? Welcome to the Q&A. So, that's it for the 3D model update. Again, just got to break down the Ghoul into sub-assemblies, and then I'm going to put that all on the Patreon for people to download for STLs. alongside the Tomb Maker and both variations of the Tomb Maker. Excuse me. So, but yeah, I'm hoping by the end of this month, I'm hoping to not only put up the Ghoul with different subassembly variations, I'm also hoping to put up the Brute. I might not be able to finish the Brute's different subassemblies, because that's a lot of detail to work with. I might not be able to get that done by the end of the month, but at the very least, having the finished full body model of the basic Brute and the basic model of the Ghoul plus its subassembly variations and customizations put up on the Patreon for downloadable STLs. And I think I'll just update the STL post for the Brute to include its subassemblies once those are ready. So that is the current plan with those, I believe. Yeah. So that's it for the models. Now let me make sure I forgot to redact this. So let me redact part of this. I'm only going to show you guys part of the first couple of pages. Yeah, because the bottom pages are a bit more. Yeah, I can't redact all that, but I can redact the first few pages. Okay. That'll be fine. Does that sense? Oh, I'm just skimming it, trying to avoid showcasing any explicit details that I don't want to spoil. Nah, that's fine. Okay, good. Alright, 1 second. Now, this might be too... No, that's actually pretty fairly sized and fits in there. Cutoff is right there. Okay, yeah, but that still fits the page. So that was good. That was good. I was actually worried that the crop on my view screen there would be a bit off, but no, that's fine. So yeah, this is the current. Yeah, don't mind the date up here. That date. That's when I started putting together the lore Bible. Yes, it's been, Jesus, almost 3 years. I have a good number of pages. I've redacted information here. It's not just like repeated like words though. Like it is actually redacted. I just don't want you to know these bits of information. Sorry, like spoilers. Like there's details in there that I want to save, but at least you know that it's written out. Like 3 ARC ships housing massive populations of humans in stasis enter the galaxy. Reason, and then there's some fully written out reason. Yeah. Feels awkward though, showing like this big giant page of redaction. It's like there's so much detail there. I'd like to show you guys, but I can't. God, I hate it. Okay, so yeah, I just kind of I did very much structure this document with the idea that I could show it to others. By the way, that's why it's not just very structural. It's very structural, but it's like it's actually formatted very carefully. It's because the idea is like I would like to print it out the full lore Bible in an actual book form, and not to sell, but for myself. Like I genuinely want a full-blown hardcover single copy lore Bible, like an actual Bible. And if I ever get to the point, this might be very fantastical, but just so you guys know how ambitious I am with this whole thing, it would be cool for me. It would be cool for me to go forward into the future, and then if I had an actual office, right, to actually have like a writer's room. Right now, I'm doing all the lore, but one day when I want to branch things out to the point where I'm hiring other writers into a writing room and have like multiple people working on multiple different novels for the universe, I want there to be an actual fucking podium. I'm 100% serious. I want an actual podium with this giant hardcover book, literally just called the Warglaive Lore Bible. And I'm gonna look at I'm gonna have it signed in everybody's contract that they have to look through it before they start working on any of the novels. And that includes even, like, writers who've been with me for a while. Like, I don't care if you've only read it once. Every time you start, before you start a new book, you read through that lore Bible. And if you need to reference it at any point, it's physically right there. Don't fuck my universe. Anyway, I just want to make that clear. But, yeah, the lore Bible, I'm not going to go through it. Like I said, part of it's still being structured and put together. But I'm putting together currently the broad timeline. That hasn't been fully done yet. I'm only up to 30 AM. The AM is after migration. All 3 of the human-derived factions in Warglaive use AM or some variation of it. And it just refers to after migration. Because for the timeline that everybody's in, the beginning of the timeline, as most of them are currently, like, registering, that's when humans entered this galaxy. Because the whole setting, I've said this before, but it's not a spoiler. But the whole setting takes place in a different galaxy from the Sol Galaxy, from the Milky Way, I should say. Like, this is not our home turf. Earth isn't here. Mars, Pluto, Saturn, none of our known worlds are in this galaxy. This is humans are entirely from without this universe. So that's why for most of the human-derived factions, they don't have a properly reserved history prior to their arrival. And for some of them, they don't even remember the arrival as being an arrival. Like the Warborn very much have like their religion and their spirituality is built around like their belief is that they are native to the galaxy. But again, that's very much wrapped up in a lot of lost history for them and lost experience for them. So they don't even like recall the details of it. So yeah, but after migration, it's just in reference to 365 normal day rotation year after they arrived in the galaxy. You would be a sucker to buy it, but have it half redacted. Okay. Vain head boy meme. Well, I have been since it started, and it's best. I like playing a game and learning about it. Awesome. I love to hear it. Does the galaxy have an IRL name? Yes. It's called the Shade Galaxy. The Shade, that name came from the name came from, what I'm trying to recall because I haven't written it. God damn it. Do I have to find my notebook? Hold on. That's one of the details I don't think I've put in this document yet. Hold on. Fuck, no, not you. Oh, that one. Oh. Okay. So the galaxy was named, is named something else by the Voke. The Voke call the galaxy Uldwa. They call the galaxy that they're in, that spatial body, Uldwa. But the sovereignty came to name the galaxy the Shade Galaxy. The Warborn refer to all of space as the God Void, or the Sea of the Gods. So they don't even refer to it in those kind of spatial bodies. And the Terran Republic also call it the Shade Galaxy, but they came about naming it because of their older documents that had it listed as such. So the Sovereignty and the Terran Republic call it the same thing. Loreborn don't generally think about the galaxy in that way. They think about the greater outers. They think of, there's planets, which are like individual expressions of the gods and their feelings and like their expressions of their emotions made manifest in physical form. But the actual space in between, like the stars, the nebulas, all of that is simply the gods' sea. It's what they traverse. And their ability to traverse the God Void is considered a privilege and gift from the gods. So they structurally think of it very differently. Yeah, I have about... these both are full to the brim with notes. And I have one more stashed away that also has a bunch of notes. That's why I'm still making the Lore Bible. But don't think because I'm still making the Lore Bible that means I'm writing as I'm working on the stuff. No, I have everything written out. I just don't have it written out yet structurally and fully morphed together. This is the organization part of it. It's all written out. It just needs to be organized. And that is the slow process. Hey, Zoid Industries, welcome. Warglaive. Need to finish it to a point. Make pieces missing. The thing is with making pieces missing, as I am the creator, I don't think I should be missing the details. Like, I need to know who, what, where, when, and why with 90% of it. If I don't know something, and I'm just like, ooh, it's a mystery, what happens when eventually it might come to a head of what that thing is? Now, there are some things I want to always be a mystery, but I still want to have, like, the solution. Like, if someone were to guess it, I'm not going to tell them if it's correct or not, but I want to know myself. Like, it might be a weird way to put it, but I think of me as, like, the god of this world that I'm creating. I'm creating it. I need to know the answers. I don't need to give them, but I need to know them. So for the Lore Bible, for me, everything written in the Lore Bible is everything. It's the full detail, the full structure, the full web of everything that is going on. I need to know who, what, where, when, and why. I don't necessarily... There are plenty of things I intend never to reveal, but I still want to have an answer for that question that I will never reveal. Even, it sounds pedantic as hell, I know, but I think that's important. Yeah, don't worry about that, what is hate. I intend to keep some secrets for this world. I don't want to provide the answers for everything. I want to have the answers, but not provide them, if that makes sense. Again, it's weird. It's weird to put it that way. I'm God of this world, naturally. Like, I know, again, it's weird to put it that way, but that's kind of it's the best way. Like, there are some things we humans will never find the solution to, right? But if there is a God, he presumably knows the answers to everything. Why are we here? Why did this happen? Why is this the way that it is? How is that the way that it is? We will never know the answers. But yeah. That is why I get a redacted Bible. I'll tell you what, I'll consider it. I'll consider making a redacted hardcover form of the Lore Bible. But for, like, there are going to be whole chapters that are going to be basically this shit. Which I guess would be funny for me. Because, can you imagine having an editor look over the redacted version of it? It's just like, do you intend to fill these black spots in? No, that's the page. That's filled in. It's just they can't see it. Okay. That'd be fun, though. You need a leather-bound one like the journal from Indiana Jones 3, kept in a safe in your room and hidden in the basement. Under concrete. Yeah, that way I have to unearth. I have to, like, really put in the effort, John Wick style, to unearth it. But yeah, this is currently the being formulated stuff. Yeah, this ancient era stuff I don't intend to be redacted at all, so that's why that's not blacked out or anything. It's all stuff that the Volk, for example, are totally open about. That's they're the oldest species still active as like one of the major forces in the universe right now. And for those who don't remember which one the Vokes are, let me bring up their art so I can give the visual. They're the Drider-based species, essentially. Concept art, concepts, faction concept art, Voke. Boom. Right there. Yeah, these are Voke. These are the Voke. Boom. Alright. Yeah, they're the oldest species. Still active. Alright, I'm going to close that for now. But yeah, just so you know, Lore Bible is still being made. And technically, until it's fully organized, this is the Lore Bible. Like, these freaking pages. Alright, so where was I on the actual updates, though? So yeah, working on the Lore Bible in between stuff, the sculpts, the comic. I think that goes over everything. Yeah. Because right now the rules are... I almost have a prototype of the rules ready. Like, to put out there for people to try out if they want to. I'm in the 7th iteration of the rules overall. But I'm liking the way they are right now. I got to play a mock game with my brother-in-law a few days ago. I think it was Monday, because he was coming over for my... You don't need to know all the reasons. He was over at the house, and I was like, hey, can I borrow you for like an hour? You know, while everyone else is doing stuff. And he went, yeah, sure. And we got to play a mock game, and I checked with him, like, did you have fun? And he gave me criticism. I was like, this is what felt a little clunky to me. This is what felt unnecessary. Here's stuff that you could probably work on. So... But he said it was a lot more fun to play than the first iteration I had him play, which was far more quirky and confusing. So at least I know I've improved. But yeah, now we've entered like the Q&A portion of the stream. Like just any questions you guys have, and it can be referred to the lore, be referred to plans going forward. Do I have a schedule? You know, any question at all related to me and Warglaive, feel free to shoot. And by the way, sorry that this green screen isn't super great. I tried my best to get rid of that green shade. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I did. It just would not go away. Does the Terrans have any records of their old home, like old religions, civilizations, or otherwise? They don't have proper records. There is a reason for that. Their Spear of Humanity was not equipped with a massive library of information. As it stands, I will say this, because it doesn't actually answer anything necessarily. It's just giving you context information that you will learn in the lore. But the different spears had different stuff on board for what they were. Like the Warborn spear mainly contained genetic information of creatures and animals from the Milky Way galaxy. Mainly animals and creatures found on Earth. Everything from basic bovine and cows, to sheep, to goats, to predators even, like wolves or bears. It had very much like a very genetic archive listed for everything. It also had a lot more medical supplies, tech, and everything revolved around the sciences and agriculture. It had a huge amount of agricultural stored information and actual resources such as seeds, bipods, and other technology akin to that type. The Terran Republic, their spear mainly contained mechs and construction equipment, fabrication technology. It was very much a spear built around the idea of actually building the physical structures of society. It was the construction ship. But as for records, neither of those two spears were very... They only had things like manuals and instructional equipment and instructional manuals and magazines and things like that to actually build or put together or replicate or activate any of the technology that they had on board. Now, in the case of the Warborn being the former mentioned, theirs crash landed. So a lot of that stuff they don't know what to do with. And by the time they were at a technological level to go back into the spear, at that point they were very much religiously... the way they looked at everything was very much from a religious lens. And again, they view the spear as their ferry from the gods. So everything on board is from the gods. And they're meant to use it, but they just don't know what for. But in the case of the third ship, who knows what was on board? One was clearly built for construction. And it was really meant for constructing a society. One was meant to house a world or seed a world with both plantation and animal life. Or at the very least, with the information to understand those things and use them. Who knows what the third was? Obviously, that's the sovereignty ship, but like the Warborn, they crash landed. Anyway, take what you will from that. But as for the Terrans specifically having old recollections, they have stories. They don't have, again, proper outline documents, like actual records. What they have is passed on stories from the first generation that exited the spear. Which, for them at this point, the modern year of Warglaive is 3999 AM. It's 3999 year of their migration. So over almost 4,000 years after entering this galaxy. That's a lot of generations. And the Terrans, keep in mind, are the most human out of the actual 3 human-derived factions. Both the Warborn and the Sovereignty are very far removed from what humans once were, to the point where they are very much a different species biologically. It's just where they came from. And though they still retain a level of the appearance of humans. But the only ones that are actually pure humans, and even then, that's not entirely true. But it's close enough to the truth to be the Terrans' case. And in the case of the Terran Republic... Again, they just have stories. Like, what did the first generation that exited the spear, what they remembered, what they taught their children, what their children passed on to their children. So they have a lot of myths, they have a lot of stories, they have a lot of things that they were told, and some things have been preserved from what, family to family, to member to family member to family member, etc. But it's like a game of telephone over the course of hundreds of generations. It's just... They don't know. They don't know what's true. They don't know what was fantastical. They don't know what was meant to be an old wives' tale, meant to scare children into behaving or to be scared of a certain behavior. They don't know. They don't know. They don't know the difference between the myths they were told and the truths that they were told. So very broken, it seems. Yes, Terrans are very much broken in regards to their passage of the past information or what they know from the past, which is kind of tragic when you think about it, because they're the only spear that landed properly on a world and had its proper start and actually did everything correctly in regards to their arrival. But they also didn't have any records or anything from their old time that would actually help them maintain their former identity from whatever society they may have come from, if they came from one. What body pillows... Wait, what? What body pillows did I pick the channel? What? Body pillows? Oh, okay. Because Piers mentioned body pillows. When you draw one, I guess, Piers. I'm not intending to sell those anytime soon. Not that I have any body pillows. Oh god. That would be a cool goal though. Like I this is gonna sound really weird, but it'd be really fun, like again, very optimistically having like a studio and everything, and then having like, I don't know, a lounge area, and then just have a bunch of like fucking hilarious things in there, like body pillows of certain female characters, big portrait, I don't know, in there of like an actual proper like painted canvas of one of the important. I don't know. That sends my imagination into an interesting location. I don't know. That'd be funny. Can you do me a favor, Asma Buddy? When you start getting books out there and stuff, can you keep an updated list of where each book belongs in the timeline, reading order? GW has 16 training novels. Every single, like, keep in mind, I'm only working on one comic and one book right now. And the book I'm working on, I know exactly where it is in the timeline, and I've noted that down. It's noted in the book where it is in the timeline. But the comic is also, I don't want to say that. It's not a spoiler. I can tell you like where the book is in the timeline, where both of them are in the timeline. The book I'm currently working on for the Melina novel, that's set about it's set about 300 years prior to the modern timeline, or the latest point in the timeline, the 3,999 year of AM, or after migration. That the book Melina takes place 300, a little almost 400 years before that, because it's the span of Melina's life as a Helsing, and she's lived as the modern timeline. She's almost 400. She's almost 400 years old. So that's her timeline. But you know, I got it jotted down for sure. And the comic is the comic that's currently being made. That's about 200 years prior to the current timeline for Warglaive. So only about 200 years. What are they playing a bit too much with natives? Wait, what? Which, for context, is the length of time from us, the Age of Babylon, New Kingdom, Egypt, and the Hittite Empire, or very close to that length of time? Oh, I get, and who fucked that up? Don't tell me. I don't think anyone wants that body pillow. Or I'd love to see you have a merch shop. I would love to see a merch shop. And I definitely like want merch, but I don't want to think about merch too much right now. I want to have the core product and the core stuff there before I start thinking about plushies. Like, it's good to keep in the back of my mind. It's like, okay, if everything goes well and everything hits off, then I can afford to think about like plushies, pillows, things like that. But I do want to focus on getting the thing out, like the actual dream team here. I want that done first. I'm trying to do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I don't want to think about step 6 before I'm done step 4, if you know what I mean. Oh, the line you're working on it. On the comic? Yeah. Ooh. Oh, my back. So, yeah. Shirts and such. Yeah, it'd be cool. I did actually have a small merch store set up just for some basic stuff when the idea was pitched. I didn't actually think anything would sell, but you know, Teespring, I think was the name of the service that I had the shop set up through. I think it's still there, but actually, is it? I don't know. Like, I haven't gotten notifications from that service in so long, and I've already heard that the shirts and stuff aren't that good. Oh yeah, I do have a store there still. Huh. Yeah, it still exists. Holy shit. I thought I took it down. Suppose that was a bit of an oversight. Yeah, hold up. Should probably ought to move monitors here. Hold on. Yeah, don't buy stuff from Teespring, by the way, because the quality of the stuff wasn't that good. But hold on here. Just gonna try and show it off. There we go. Cool. Yeah, this is a merch store that apparently still exists. Yeah. Like I said, don't buy this stuff. Teespring is not that good. The quality of the merch they produce, I got a couple things from the shop, which I had to buy my own stuff to get it, which sucked. But yeah, the actual quality of the merch and the stuff on here didn't come out like we already got like shirts and stuff like that. I say we. Yeah, I wasn't super impressed with the actual quality when I got it, because I don't know exactly what it is they do. Like it really, like the actual logo for Warglaive, for example, for this shirt. That's one of the shirts I got. It started peeling off. Like I ran it through the wash maybe 2 or 3 times, and that logo started peeling off. So I don't know if it's a sticker or some kind of spray on material that they do to actually get that on there, but they don't actually properly like ink it into the fabric itself, whatever it is. So yeah, I wasn't super impressed by the quality, but yeah, I kind of forgot about this shop, not gonna lie. I forgot about it. I must have forgot about it because I thought I took it down because of the quality of the stuff, but I think I must have forgotten to do that. My apologies. Anyway, back to the Q&A. Do you get anything from it? They could be a bit yeah, that's the other thing. Teespring's split percentage thing, despite the fact that I know for a fact like 4 or 5 people in the community bought stuff from the Teespring store, I never got a profit, which is very confusing to me. It's like, okay, supposedly according to this service, and I have confirmed purchases, like there are members of the community who have the shirts from the Teespring store, I never got that money. So yeah, I contacted and I like, don't worry, I did actually try and get like that resolved. It never did. Like, I never got an email back. Another reason I thought I took down the store, but apparently I didn't. Yeah, so in the future, when we do actually get a proper merch store going, because I don't consider that Teespring store proper merch, it'll probably be set up with a service or like with a company that actually puts effort into the products that they're... I just don't want like cheap stuff, like what Teespring was producing. It did really come off as like cheap. It was weird. But I don't want to dwell on that too much. Again, I'm probably gonna take down that shop shortly after this. My apologies. Let me shift my position here. I'm not cropping out. Okay. Just remembered, have you seen Sci-Fi's new show, The Ark? I have not. I don't watch Sci-Fi. I watch Sci-Fi. I don't watch Sci-Fi, the channel. That can make for some confusing sentences. Because it has one possible similarity to what I theorize happened to the Milky Way. That we destroyed Earth and had abandoned it in Ark ships. Maybe. That's possible. That could be the answer. Could be other things. Ooh. What size will the minis be? Sorry if I already covered. They vary. They will vary in size quite a bit. But as I am coming from being a 40k player, and I'm still a 40k player, by the way, just because I'm working on this doesn't mean I'm suddenly not a 40k fan or anything like that. Warglaive is its own thing, and I inherently I keep reinforcing that. It's not some kind of like that's the thing. One page rules already has like their own like rule set for people who just want to play 40k but not play 40k, if that makes sense. I don't want to just make a 40k clone. I'm actually making something far more substantial and its own thing. So just want to say that. But that being said, being a 40k fan, a lot of the sizes of the minis are still close approximations to similar sizes for like 40k minis. For example, the Gretch Ghoul is on a 25mm base, and it's only about that tall. The Gretch Brute is on a 40mm base. The actual shape of the bases, I'm still debating. I want them to either be circular or stylistically maybe something more geometric. But even then, it's still gonna act with the rules there are right now. There is, meeting of the bases being like within melee if the bases are near touching or within half an inch of each other, that's considered melee distance and melee combat. But so having that circular smoothness fits with that. So having like a more dynamic shape would only be a stylistic choice. If I chose to go with like an octagon or whatever. So right now they're probably going to end up being circular bases though, because I just the base should be more functional than stylistic. Like if someone wants a stylistic base, they'll make their own or they'll stylize their own bases. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Like the actual base, normal bases should just be functional. So I'll probably just end up doing with circular bases similar to how 40k does, because similar to 40k, it's the way the units will move on the tabletop for the rules. But the sizes will vary. They will vary. But generally speaking, the smallest units in the game are on 25mm bases. The biggest units in the game don't even have bases because they're so big. Their proximity is kind of self-explanatory. X bases. Again, if I choose to do a more geometric base style, it's going to be a stylistic choice. But again, when I reason in my mind, like the actual normal bases, should I be trying to go stylistic with that? It doesn't necessarily like. I just worry they might. I don't see it happening too easily, but it might make confusion for the rules. Excuse me. I don't know why my throat keeps like catching. So, any other questions, feel free to keep hitting me up with them. Again, it's a full Q&A. Whoops. That was weird. So let me also double check Patreon. Again, if you're a patron and you want to throw a question my way via DMs as opposed to like the public chat, feel free to do so. I will answer those, even if like the stream ends and you still have like a burning question. Feel free to hit me up over on the Patreon, and I will answer it as soon as I possibly can. Excuse me. But yep. That's while I wait for potential other questions. I will state for the record, I still am working on this alone. I did actually try and hire someone last year for a sculpting position, because I was hoping to just... it's not really a skill thing. I definitely think I'm good enough to make really good detailed models that people have fun painting and playing with on the tabletop. But I wanted to hire someone to help me get them done faster, to get more models like available for people via STL form, and then once I have the STLs and once I have enough printers, hopefully in the future I can also, for people who don't want to print their own minis, they can buy them from me and I can print them off for them and like ship them out in box sets and stuff. That's way later. But I wanted someone's help with that. But yeah, unfortunately I couldn't find anybody. Could just be the places I looked or the people I reached out to, but I couldn't find anybody, and now I don't have the spare income to hire someone. So yeah, but currently I'm still the only person working on the project. I have had I will say this also for the record, for people, don't offer to work for free. I've had numerous people offer to like say like, oh, you know, I'll totally work for free, like I'll even sign something, say I'm totally good. Legally, that's not enforceable, at least in the United States. First of all, like it's just there's a huge legality issue with it, because even if you sign something here in the United States saying, you know, I will do this for free, by law, that's not how that works. Like, if someone does work for you and you have financial gain from it, at any point, even if they sign something, if they get pissed off or they don't feel like they were appreciated for the work or whatever the case may be, or they just simply see the numbers that you have coming in and they're like, wow, I didn't get any money from that, and he's making hand over fist for like cash, you could take a lawyer and take my ass to court, and regardless if I have 100 documents signed from you saying like, hey, I was totally cool with it, doesn't matter. United States, it will still be an argument in court. So the legality aspect of it is super shady and bad. So no, I'm not having anyone help me or support this project for free. But there's also the ethics aspect of it. Like, I ethically, even if that wasn't how it worked in the United States, that's not how I work as a person. If someone does work for me, especially in this context where it's stuff I'm going to be selling for money, I don't want people to do work that is worthy of compensation and a financial gain and not return that. That's a dickhead move. That's just wrong. I don't think people should. If you have a talent and you have a skill and you have this thing that you've honed and this ability you've honed and it's not compensated, I just think that's trash. Like, you should get paid what you're worth. So if people come to me, again, I've had some talented people come to me and offer to do stuff for free. Not many, not many, but a few, and I've turned them down. Both again, I'm not gonna deny the legal part worries me, but I'm also equally worried about the ethical aspect. It's just, I'm happy so many people are that eager for this project to have life breathed into it and for it to be brought up from its foundations. But at the same time, it's wrong from a legal aspect, and it's also wrong from an ethical aspect. I'm not going to have people do such good work for nothing. And so so when I look for people to hire, it's going to be with the intent of paying them, compensating for the work, and having them paid what it's worth. That way, when this project comes out, I don't have to worry about any of the people working on it having a bone to pick. It's just they worked, they got paid, and they got treated well, for sure. Like that's how I want people to, who I will eventually hire to help me with this. Yeah, that's how I want them walking away if they choose to walk away. And again, like in the future, I hope to have like a full studio, like a full workshop. Like several people working on the design, several people like printing models and putting and packaging them and sending them out to customers, and obviously, you know, doing some like media for it, like more comics, more books, all that kind of stuff. I want that to be a thing. I want there to be a Warglaive studio. Well, I already, like, Scarlet Games is the studio I've made, and I hope that to be an actual studio one day, not just by name as it is currently, because it's a studio of one person. It's me. But I hope Scarlet Games actually gets the opportunity to see a full staff working on this. Makes sense, sensible reasonings as to why free work is ill-advisable. And it is. I'd say if you're someone out there who's offering your work for free, or even if you're offering it for something like exposure, which is not compensation. I'm going to be quite frank with anybody who thinks that it is. It's just not. Like, the way exposure works, especially with something like this, it's not the same as actual, like, exposure doesn't pay for food. Like, you don't go to the store and be like, hey, would you like when that cashier asks for like cash or credit, or you know, like, what are you running? You can't go, oh, I'm gonna pay this with exposure. It's just no, it's not how I want to roll. What if you have no talent and still offer work for free? Still no. It doesn't matter if you're talented or not. It's still, you're just gonna do work. Work is work. You're unpacking. I mean, hey, I will definitely need to hire packers. Like once it's like up and running to that degree, like where we have like a customer base, we have shops that will actually sell like the box sets and stuff. Yeah, I absolutely need, and that's not something to undermine or think lesser of. I will need people working and packing, packaging the sets, putting it all in boxes. I will need someone like that. So. I don't know. I definitely like to have a full staff. May get away with tits. What? Oh, my neck. I have an old man's back. I feel like I'm dying of like old age, and I'm only in my early 20s. Ugh, it's not a good sign. Just let me live until I get this done. Yeah, I'm doing my part. Doing my part. I'm doing my part too. Those who don't know what that's referencing, you had a terrible childhood. Not yours. Hey, my titties are going nowhere. My girlfriend has entirely laid claim to these. I'm sorry. Ain't happening. Unless the dollar signs are big enough. I gotta see them zeros. I gotta see a 1 and a lot of zeros behind it. Some smart ass that'll probably put like $1, but then they'll just put a bunch of point zeros. 0.00000. To be fair, that's something I would do. I'm a smart ass. So, is there any other questions in regards to Warglaive? And again, it can apply to any angle of it. Like, it can apply to the lore, it can apply to the workload right now, it can apply to plans on hiring people in the future. It can apply to any avenue of the project and the work going in. Feel free to throw out a question. Right, you're not even as old as my younger sister. Hey. Good, I'm youthful. I'll live. That means I have more years to work on this before I fall apart. Yay. That's why you have children, free labor. I'm working on it. I gotta wear my girlfriend down to the point where she'll want to have kids. Actually, that's kind of a joke, considering she actually does want kids. But anyway. There a plan for the LG TTRPG? Oh, okay. Is there a plan for a TTRPG? No. If you mean by plan as in do I hope to make a TTRPG set in this setting? Yes. Is that in the works? No. Will it be soon? No. As it is, I got the comic, I got the novel, I got the game rules, and I got the models. I already got those on my plate. As it is, it was an argument to put the comic on my plate, but I can do that. Putting on top of all of that, TTRPG. I think that's one too many. Question, will all of the big name characters have their own models? Most of them will. Like, for example, Melina, the titular main character of the novel I'm working on. She's alive in the modern setting. She is going to be a HQ, or HQ equivalent. She's going to be a command unit. She's going to have a model. And likely, at least for the people who read the book, she'll probably be a very well-selling model. Because the lore wrapped up in her will be, well, this is my hope anyway, will be engaging enough that people are going to be like, fucking take my money, bitch. I want to buy that model. Yeah, there might be people who never intend to play the tabletop game ever, but they just want the model because of the lore. And it's just like, shut up and take my money, fat man. It's like, alright. But a good number of the characters will. A good number of the characters from the books and the comics will have their own models. Not all of them. Some because of, reasons. Some because in the lore, they're kind of... In the lore, they would never be on the battlefield. Like, for example, the Chancellor Militant of the Terran Republic. The leader of their entire government. He's not a soldier. He wears the garb of one. He had the training of a soldier. He was a soldier, but that's because their whole society are soldiers at some point. But he himself, you will never see leading a battlefield directly anymore. Not since he became the Chancellor Militant. Plus, he's a really old guy. Not that he's not dangerous or capable. He absolutely is. But he's just not a soldier anymore. He's in charge of them. It doesn't make a lot of sense to put the leader of your entire society on the battlefield. She an HQ like a tank? Do you mean so you mean to ask she a tanky HQ? She is, well, compared to base models, absolutely she's tanky. But she's more of a damage output, like that's the intent anyway with her rules. And she's more of a damage output than she is a tank. She can't take a lot of abuse, but she can deliver a lot of it. Like women normally do. They can dish a lot of it. They can't take a lot of it. I'm gonna get in trouble with that one. Anyway. Should just make it a random model later on. Make what a random model? Melina? She's not going to be random. She's going to be an HQ. They're going to start on D&D? Yeah. I'm not here to talk about I've already talked about that at length on my main channel about D&D and its issues right now. But none of its issues are with the game legacy-wise. It's recent choices by Wizards of the Coast. Power Man there? You mean the Chancellor Militant? I guess I could make him a collectible model with no rules. Maybe like an action figure or just like a collectible statue. But, yeah, he wouldn't really... He wouldn't be on the battlefield. But then there's the War Chief of the Warborn. He would be on the battlefield. 100%. You would have to chain him to a chair not to get him on the battlefield. Even then, the chains may not hold. Yeah, but yeah, the general answer to that is a good number of the characters from the books will have models. Just not every character. Some because of their mortality rate, you know, that character may or may not be alive by the end of the book, the given book you're reading. So, you know, not every named character from the book will be on the tabletop. Also, some of the books are going to take place earlier in the timeline, you know, way earlier to the point where the character can't, even if they're of the Crypta and are a Helsing, they may not be alive much later due to just general mortality. So, any other questions, guys, before we wrap up today's Q&A? And I guess at this point, Q&A / mid-month update. Who has a chance to keep him in control, or do you want to know? Don't worry, there are plenty of things I'm leaving out. I must be like, I don't know, like, I think like internally I'm aging like 10 times faster than I am externally. Ugh. Cause I keep having like cricks in my bones and my shoulder. I catch my neck earlier. Falling apart. I'm not even 30 yet. God damn it. The thing is, it's not like I don't get exercise. Like, I live on a farm. I'm very busy in that regard. Oh, maybe that's actually the reason. Maybe it's fatigue. The story might be more fun. I think it certainly does. You know, I like having mysteries out there, and I like having things unexplained because it keeps people engaged. And the thing is, it's not like I can't speak for every cinematic sci-fi universe out there that exists. 40K. But, you know, it's not unlike some of those that may or may not exist out there with a shit ton of digits in their name. Unlike those, I actually am writing out what is what and will maintain it. So it's not like I'm putting out a mystery and then it's like I don't know the answer to it. I know the answer to everything that happens in this universe. I know where everything comes from. I know how old everything is. I know where everything is going. I know it all. Y'all don't, and that's the point. But yeah, just to throw a little bit of shade at some potential other companies that may or may not have a shit ton of digits in their name and the name of a weapon in their name. Unlike those, I actually have the answers to those questions written out. Look at that. Stretch slacker. But that's what I'm saying is you should, like, if you create a setting in a universe, like I am, like anybody is, if you have mysteries, if you have, like, things in the universe that are vague or are not, like, laid out in full, and are mysteries by all accounts. They should remain so. It's like, think it again. It sounds really pedantic to say it like this, but again, if you're a creator of a universe, you are the god of that universe. And like with real life, when we don't understand or don't know something, or we can't find the answers to something in real life, it's not like we knock on God's door and go, "Hey, why haven't you released the latest patch that explains all this shit, man?" It's like, no. We know we can't get the answers there. So we have to speculate, we have to theorize. But no matter how much we do those things, we may never have the concrete black and white answers to everything in real life. So just like that, why you should have mysteries in your fictional universe as well. If anything, it makes it feel more real when there are things in it that you just can never understand. And the context to understand them will never be given to you, because the context of it existed well before you came into the picture. That's kind of how I see it with Warglaive. Like, I have the answers to everything. Y'all don't, and y'all won't. But I will say this, like, in my wildest fantasies, if Warglaive was to become so popular, right, that I could get, like, a panel set up at a convention. I definitely don't think Warglaive will have its own convention. That's a bit of a fantasy, but it's just that. I don't think I'll ever get that popular. But to get like a panel at like Comic-Con or something, right? And let's say I'm sitting there, like I have a series of staff and everything, and I have like a crowd of people come in and ask questions in a Q&A format, unlike this where it's live stream, but like in person, like with a mic and everybody cosplaying and stuff like that. Again, I have had fantasies about this, and hopefully the ambitiousness of like me having that dream brings some confidence to the project that I see that happening, or at least being possible. But I kind of like the idea of someone like walking up to the mic and being like, "This is like, you know, my like PowerPoint presentation, right, of why I think the reason humanity came to this galaxy is because this exact thing happened, and here's the context clues from your writing." And even let's say they go through like a whole thing. First of all, I'd let them. I'd be like, "All right, let's see it. Let's see your arguments." I would do my absolute best not to show any reaction. And let's say they nailed it, right? Like they absolutely nailed the idea I had, or nailed to a T what it is I envisioned. I would just stand up and go, thank you for presenting. Or thank you for sharing your idea. Well, is it true? Thank you for presenting. Thank you for sharing your idea. I want those moments so badly. I'd relish the shit out of them. I just keep repeating that, though, the more they push for it. It's like, is he right? Possibly. Possibly not. I don't know. Again, I have, like, dreams like that and fantasies like that, and it makes me like very eager for like everyone else to get their hands on like on the books and on the creative material around this. And you know, I hope to make lore videos in the future, but I have to have like all the artwork and stuff ready for that before I just start throwing that stuff out there. I don't know. It's just might be a pipe dream, but something I'm looking forward to, and hope becomes a reality for sure. I've seen it before. Yeah, I think we've all seen like that like goofy person who shows up at like a con and is like, you know, I figured your shit out, man. Tried to nail Wargame to the wall and failed. Oh, like mini Wargamers, the channel? Yeah, I do know that they had like a takedown of like their website years and years back, I think. So industries agree on that. Having mysteries in your setting, because in my setting there's an event called The Fall that was caused by one of the factions. As for why they can't do it again, I've left it a mystery only I can answer. Yeah, and I think every setting should have that, because it creates engagement, right? Like, what's more engaging for a community to actually be a community around, right? Like, if you have the answers to the questions, then what do fans of this setting or universe, or any setting or universe, have to discuss? It's like, oh, well, we have the answers, so what are we debating? What are we discussing? At that point, it's just like, who's your favorite waifu debate? Or who's your favorite husbando? Like, whatever. Like, that doesn't hold together a community that much. I think what really engages people, oftentimes, and to the point of zealotry, often comes in the form of mysteries, of questioning things. So if you give people just enough to formulate those questions, but you don't give them the answers, and in my case, never do, that'll always have people engaged. And the best part for me as a creator is hearing people discuss it and come up with ideas. Of course, I have no doubt that someone will probably come up with it like a grander idea than I ever had, because the thing is, a lot of people are gonna have I guess this is why some studios end up changing. Like, let's say a studio, like, or anybody really doing a creative endeavor has an idea, right? But then everybody guesses it, and they feel pressure to because they're like, oh, well, that won't be grand enough because they could guess it. But, no, it just meant you left your breadcrumbs too carefully, and you led them too well because people found the answer. But the thing is, you shouldn't just cave and be like, all right, I got to change it now, so it's still going to be a mystery and people, still have to guess at it. You do that, you end up fracturing and you end up damaging everything that came before under the pretense of a pre-made idea that you now are throwing away. I feel like oftentimes you see that in Hollywood or video games, like, or a series of a TV show. Like, they feel this weird pressure for that wow moment that, oh, I never guessed that. It's like, I think it's better to have an answer, and then if people guess it right, they guessed it right. It just means you had a good story, and you left good enough breadcrumbs for them to follow. But in my case, I have the benefit of just never giving the confirmation. Although I have kind of reasoned that, like, if I were to die, I would leave in my will the answers to the questions. But at the same time, my entire writing staff will know the answers to a lot of these questions if I have a writing staff, which I hope to. Because, again, I want that physical lore Bible on a podium in the writing room. And it's going to contain the spoilers for those mysteries that I intend never to reveal. But, yeah. I'll just leave it in my will, though. Like, if any of y'all bastards reveal this shit after my death, I will haunt you. No, on a panel for mini models. Oh, okay. I'm glad you love that. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's important to have the solution when you write something. That way, everything can be structurally sound that's written around it, and I think it's important to maintain that. So, everything I've written out is not changing. Who knows? Maybe people won't like, and again, I won't reveal it, so it's not like they'll know, but maybe people will come up with ideas. Like, that's another thing. Like maybe when people theorize about why is humanity in the Shade Galaxy, for example, it's like, why are we here? Why are they there? Why? If people come up with an idea that far surpasses the one I originally had, I'm still not going to change mine just because someone else had a better idea. It's just, again, I will definitely relish people's ideas when they come up with them, and think about the mysteries, like, all that's gonna be fun. It did go bad for GW on the panel, so they left. And yeah, GW at this point have like the worst. Actually, no. I will say this. I do think Hollywood, like the United States Hollywood, the actors and stuff, I think they have worse PR than GW does. But I think for the sphere that we're in, GW definitely has the worst reputation. And they have the least amount of... Here's the thing, like, most other fans of of stuff like do their best to try and like the company that makes it. I don't know very many honest like 40K fans, for example, that like GW. Like oftentimes when they explain their love of the hobby, it's with the caveat of, well, GW sucks as a company, but what they produce is what I love. That's often how it's like explained to a lot of people, and I think most fans, most real fans of 40K, that's generally their feelings, right? Because it's just GW. They're not great. I'll say this: they might be great from a business perspective, like to shareholders. I'm sure they're very single-mindedness towards the dollar amount and towards sales and towards. Even then, though, they make some really weird decisions that, in my opinion, hurt their sales, but. Regardless, their single-mindedness towards the profits and to hyper controlling their IP, I'm sure to a shareholder is very, very, very comforting. But to their fan base and their player base, yeah. Anyway, I'll leave off on that. Unless anyone has some last-minute questions, just feel free to shoot them out real quick. But otherwise, we'll wrap up here. I'll give you guys a minute. Or so to throw out any other questions you have in terms of Warglaive, in terms of the lore, in terms of the setting, in terms of the development of the minis. Any of that stuff, feel free to shoot out. And, yeah, we'll do that. Hey, Karn. Yeah, it was amazing at training their fan base. They're certainly amazing. Quite often not for the positive connotation of that word. So how does space travel work then? It varies per faction. But generally, the answer to that question is most factions, if not all factions. The slower space travel for all of them is they use thrusters and ion thrusters, things like that, to move at like slower paces. The fastest they can go short of their faster than light travel, most ships are pretty slow. Like short of their faster than light travel, there's not a lot of mass transit method like speeds they can go to. Like the fastest the ship can go based on their thrusters is probably going to be the Voke. The Voke are very, very fast in terms of their spacecraft, but even they can't go like short of their FTL. Short of that, they can't go much faster than for example, the distance between Earth and Mars, right? If a Voke craft, if their fastest craft were to travel from one to the other, from Earth to Mars, it would take them a day. Little less than a day. 20 hours. From Earth to Mars on thrusters. That's how slow, generally speaking, the space travel is and their momentum is. Short of their FTL. FTL, on the other hand, though, they can traverse the difference between Earth and Pluto in less than 2 seconds. 2-3 seconds. But that's the Voke. And the Voke have the fastest FTL as much as they have the fastest thrusters. The FTL for each faction changes. Most of the human factions have similar ones. I wonder why. They have very similar speed capabilities towards their FTL. And for the faster than light travel speeds, all of them can traverse massive amounts of space. Like, again, using Earth to Pluto. Using that example again. All the human factions can cross that with their FTL in about 2 minutes. 2 minutes FTL travel between Earth and Pluto. Using FTL. They all call their FTL something different. And in the case of the Sovereignty does actually have a unique one to the other human factions, but it's still derived from the same technology. So, though they all are very similar, there is a slight difference there. But both the Terran Republic and the Warborn have identical FTLs, down to the name. But the Warborn, again, they're very religious, they're very spiritual. Everything around them is very much based on that. That's how they see and view and judge everything, is through the eyes of that faithfulness. So, though they understand it is a piece of technology, something mechanical, it's no different than, like, you know, yanking a crane or hand operating gears. They understand that that's what it is, but they think it's crafted by gods, and thus that's how they name it. So their FTL, they named the breath of the gods. Well, specifically, it's a breath of a specific god. Hold on, I have that one on my Lore Bible already. I can just scroll down to that one. That one is, for the Warborn, they call their FTL. The Breath of Noda. Because Noda is their all-father god. It's the leader of their pantheon. Yeah. Yeah, the fastest Voke ship with just thrusters, Zoid, can traverse between Earth and Mars. Yeah, very fast. Very, very fast. They're fast, yeah, don't get me wrong. But compared to the FTL, it's still slow. But the FTL makes up all the difference. Yeah, I did say 2 minutes. He's talking about, like, real world craft, like modern day real world rockets can traverse that distance in 6 months. But a Voke ship can cross that in 2 minutes, just on thrusters. Which, again, that's very, very fast. That's faster than any car. That's for damn sure. Let's just... But... Oh, sorry, no, the 2 minutes, sorry. 2 minutes is the FTL, though. But with the thrusters, they can still, within a day, make it between Earth and Mars. Within a single day. 24-hour period. And, again, that's still faster than any car you'll see on the highway, on the interstate. That's zooming compared to anything we have. But FTL, distance between Earth and Pluto, it's like that, by comparison. That's 2 minutes flat, FTL travel. They're extremely fast with the FTL. Now, to describe them in like detail, the Voke's form of FTL is very different from the human factions. Theirs is a warp way. It's a warp gate. They create basically a disturbance in space, in the shape of basically a black hole. It's not actually a black hole, but it's that idea, right? It's just this rip in space, just this portal, and it's basically they create wormholes in space, and that's how they travel from one location to the other. The problem with the Voke's FTL is they need to know the coordinates for both where the warp gate starts and where it ends, but at any point they can generate that and travel between the distances. But speed wise, it's not too different from, it's faster, but it's not too different from the human ones in terms of speed. The human factions all create a energy around their craft. I actually explain. I'll pull up the Melina novel because I have it actually worded in that. Scroll through the pages. Okay, here it is. So the sovereignties, just directly taking it from the text of the Melina novel, the sovereignty use Void Burst, FTL. Void Burst is the sovereignty's form of faster than light travel, and I'm reading it directly from the text. With, as the name suggests, a burst of dark energy, and this isn't dark in terms of color, although I am probably gonna visually make it look fairly dark and sinister, but by all accounts, dark energy is an actual real thing. Of dark energy shifting space, time, and matter around the given void craft or spaceship, propelling it forward from the main engines, slingshotting it forward in space, while the initial dark energies around the ship emanated both from the main engines and conductor coils across the craft's outer hull, solidify the laws of physics inside the craft. Thus, while the ship is ripping through space at immense speeds, it is safely contained inside a protective mucus of dark energy. This protects the craft and its inhabitants from being plastered through bulkheads with the inertia such speeds ring. So, Void Burst being the Sovereignty's version of this, and again, keep in mind the Terran Republic and the Warborn use basically the same thing, the same principles, but it's called different things, and there is a slight variation in what powers it. Because both of them use a more traditional source of power. Well, I say traditional, it's for this setting traditional. Meanwhile, the Sovereignty use a type of crystal they find in their homeworld. So it's just powered differently, but the general idea is the same. So basically, with these dark energies, their engines, their normal thrusters are powered by ion engines. It's more of a basic energy, just to keep the ship moving forward and at decent speeds. But its main engines, the big ones, the big engines that produce that burst of dark energy, essentially with conductor coils across the hull and across the engine, they release a level of dark energy before they actually burst forth with it around the ship to, I guess you could say, freeze the laws of physics in the ship. Not as in the laws of physics don't move or don't still be maintained, it's just they won't be affected by the actual craft's movement through space and space-time. So the craft, though it is physically moving with that burst of dark energy from the engines, again, slingshotting it through space. Just, it's kind of like, like if anyone's seen Star Trek, and you remember when the nacelles do the, and there's that flash and they burst through space and they go a warp drive. It's very similar to that, except it's bursting forth dark energy. It's leaving behind an energy trail. And that burst of dark energy slingshots them forward through space. But how is it everyone in the craft doesn't get immediately flattened and turn into red paste with such speeds pushing them forward? It's because the inside is maintained with a dark energy, kind of a shield, if you want to think of it like that. And that shield protects the occupants from being affected by the speeds. The downside of that is if that shield were to break apart or fail mid-transit via their void burst drives, everyone in the ship could die simply by them trying to cross the galaxy at faster speeds. But unlike the Vokes, which is they create a tunnel essentially through space that decays immediately after they exit the other side, the void burst is it's not a tunnel. It's not like they're creating a path. They are actually traversing that actual distance using just pure raw power of force as they go through space. And the Terran Republic and the Warborn both use the same stuff, but call something else. So that's FTL for most of the factions. The Rathan and the Gretsch, on the other hand, The Gretsch don't have FTL at all. They don't travel through space at massive, blinding speeds. They travel purely off of a generated thrust, not really using technology. If it's a ship that they've taken over, then obviously whatever the speed of that ship is set at by its original occupants is moving at that speed. But their actual bioships... That jumped the shit out of me. Fuck. Sorry, some of my stuff got knocked over. I don't know why I got knocked over, though. I'll have to clean it up. Anyway, that threw me off my chain of thought. Yeah, but with the Gretsch bioships, it's a giant organism moving through space. Think of it kind of like a space whale, which conjures the wrong image, but it should conjure the right speed. It's just a slow push forward through space. The momentum barely there. But, and of course with the Rathan, their ships do have FTL, theoretically. They don't often move with their FTL, and not all of them have it. It's a bit weird to explain, but the Rathan are a raiding pirate species. Their ships are built from scrap metal and just thrown together shit. By all accounts, their ships are just functional enough to get them from point A to point B. The speed at which they get to point A to point B isn't super important to them. They just kind of cruise as they go along, and the inside of the ship is just a moving fucking city anyway. But, yeah, their raiding barges don't move super fast. Their smaller craft do. Their small raiding crews on smaller craft move much faster. And those definitely have FTL. But their FTL is, it's kind of closer to the more traditional warp drives we've seen in something like, again, Star Trek. Theirs, though, is a lot, they have the slowest FTL out of all the factions that actually have FTL. They're moving through space at pretty good speeds, but whereas, again, any of the factions using their FTL can make the distance between Earth and Pluto in 2 minutes flat, or slightly less, theirs will get them between Earth and Pluto in about 2 weeks. 2-3 weeks, maybe. So they're not super fast. I like what kind of craft are. Sorry, you like what kind of craft they are. Kind of craft. Are they suing battleships? Fights. Suing? Swing battleships? I'm not sure what you're asking there. What is hate? I like what kind of craft are they suing what? Confused what you're asking. Are you asking if the ships have fighting capabilities in space? Yes. They have each of their ships are capable of fighting in space using different weapons, but generally speaking, yes. Sovereignty using plasma, mostly, actually all the human factions, I think about it, use plasma-based weapons in space, like plasma cannons, plasma gats. Although the Warborn are kind of creative because they have harpoon-like stuff that they pierce into other ships to prevent them from going away. Although, of course, if someone tried to use FTL while those spears were attached, that could be disastrous. But, generally speaking, the Warborn would, if they're raiding a ship, the Warborn will take out the engines and then spear the sides with their large spears and force the ships close together so they could board them and then fight them. And then the Rathan have the sides of their ship, they have hooks, like basically these large-scale scythe-like blades that they hook into the side of a ship when they intentionally come up behind or in front of them and just slice into the entire side of a hull. Now, this can lead to one of two results. First result, they slide right through with all the slices and just rip out the entire side of the hull of the ship, kill it, and then when they, take those blades out, they rip open the hull, so the entire ship's life support is entirely pointless, and everyone's blown out into space. Then they just put on some, breathing gear and stuff, and they just raid the place as all the occupants of that given ship are now floating in space, killed by the vacuum. And frozen to death on top of it. Funny you mentioned Voyager, because there is a small influence from... I have got to go, guys. I am receiving a very important call. But I'll leave off finishing that thought real quick. So, but funny you mentioned Voyager, because one idea I kind of carried over from it, because species A472 are from a alternate dimension of fluidic space, right? I took that idea and I made it my own inside Warglaive, because the entirety of Gretsch territory in space is basically a fluidic space. It would look like a nebula, or like a gas giant, or like a mist from the outside going in. But once you enter their space, that green miasma bakes bay to you. You go from being surrounded by nothing, which is space, or like small molecules and stuff like that, to basically entering the equivalent of like an ocean. Like, you are now surrounded by matter, like biomatter, of a sorts. So you basically turn into a ship in normal space, entering Gretsch space, like their territory, in their fluidic space. You turn into a submarine effectively, because you're now moving through something. You're not moving through empty space anymore. So there's actually also resistance with that. So you actually have to also constantly keep up a thrust with your engines. As opposed to normal space, you can do a burst of speed and then you can cut the engines and you'll still maintain a momentum forward. You'll only need thrusters and stuff like that to change direction, alter pace, or slow down. But otherwise, if you're just going a solid, flat, straight direction, you can just burst those engines fast enough and then cut them, and then you'll maintain that speed, because there's micro resistances in space that'll slow you down over a long period of time. But unlike going in the ocean or somewhere where you're moving through matter, it'll take a very long time for you to slow down in space. Whereas within fluidic space, or in Gretsch space, you'd slow down very quickly. Like, you cut the engines, you stop moving. Like, maybe a minute flat after cutting the engines. Your momentum will carry a little bit, but not by much. Alright, so I've got to go. I hope everybody enjoyed this Q&A and felt it was informative. I will have another one hopefully next month, mid-month again. Because I'm thinking about doing the Q&As every month, mid-month, like middle to 2/3 into the month, something like that. And, I'm also going to have an update video overall of where everything is at the very end of the month or beginning of next month for the progress update of what got done during April. That'll be up later, though. Yeah, I think that's... yeah. So, please consider, if you want to support Warglaive Gothic and its continued production, also get updates before everybody else, and also get access to the STLs as they come out, and they're forever accessible on Patreon. please check out the Patreon. It's linked below in the description. If you want to donate to Warglaive and help keep the project going, but you don't necessarily want to do it through Patreon, there's a donation link as well. But all in all, have a good day, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.